Hi, today we're in Chuckwalla Valley, right above Corn Springs Campground. This is all the Chuckwalla Mountains, all the way around here, up to the peak, about 4,500 feet, comes all the way down here. And all these mountains were formed by volcanic activity, not too long ago in geologic years. What we have is this whole rising of the Sonoran Desert. So all this down here was actually very flat and muddy and silty as part of the desert. And this here's an old miner's cabin. And the history of this place goes back to the middle 1800s, where miners would come up here, look for gold, silver, and ore. And the primary spot was up here, about 2 miles up the hill, called Aztec Wells. All right, and so they mine up here, then they retreat down to the oasis where we're camping tonight. In 1897, it was established as the Corn Springs Mining District. And here's an old our old miner's cabin. You know, got a little labyrinth. Maybe if you're a Mojave fringe-toed lizard, you can run around this thing, right? Okay, let's take a look at our cabin. I'll tell you a story about this place here. I'll take a look inside, see what we have. Let's go through the, I don't know, the front door? Call it that? And here we have a little lanai, screened off. Alright, you kind of hang out here. Some old buckets or pots, some rocks. Some old nails here. Screen porch. Little, container, put your boots in or clothes. I don't know. Let's look in here. Here's the main house. Right, there's the kitchen. I got some books and journals here. Fireplace. Very cool. Okay, got some old coffee, propane. It's from my Coleman's, so I'm sure it's a little more recent than late. Alright, some water. If you're up here and you need water, there's always water here from the spring. I've got some old cans here as well. Old Bush beer, how about that? And bottle beer. There's a story here if you want. But the main character of our story here is this fellow. His name is John de la Garza. So John, he was born in Texas along the Rio Grande River in 1878. And he walked across the desert from Nevada to Needles, California, eventually making it to Corn Springs in 1930. Then he never left. He was a prospector. He worked up at Aztec Wells. He's a quiet guy. He never got married. And then after he retired from Aztec Wells, he moved down here to this little miner's cabin. Wow. Anyway, so he died in 1978 at the age of 100. How about that? And here's where he lived for so long. This little miner's cabin up here. All right. Let's take around the other side. See what we're looking at. Beautiful. All right, so all the sediment we get up here, it's like a big hodgepodge of dirt and rocks and stuff. So anyway, here's our sand. Some of it's finer, really fine there. It's almost like a clay. Okay, this is for millions of years from the Sierra Nevadas when this used to be all underground before the mountains came up, and then you get larger sediment like sand and little gravel here, right? This is more recent erosion. And then you get these lava rocks here, right? This is basalt lava, or alkali basalt, from the Mojave, volcanoes and the cinder cones. And then you have the uprising of the mountains, kind of stirs everything up, and you get this whole hodgepodge of sediment and rocks. And some are new, and some are old, and some are eroded and polished, and some are not. And our desert plants out here love it. Wow. Now, I don't think we get any obsidian that you might find out at Salton Sea. But, I could be wrong. And down in the wash here, we have a lot of mesquite, ironwood, burrow brush, creosote bushes, acacia, the little grasses from the desert. And what else we got? Cat claw, Acacia greggii, and we have a lot of mistletoe, desert mistletoe as well. There's another little ladybug right there. Oh, there he goes. Right there. Little pencil cactus. All right. But over here, these guys are really cool. This is our jumping teddy bear cactus. Okay, Cylindropuntia, bigelovii. Now he's mostly called a bigelow cactus, right? And what they do is he's called a teddy bear because his needles up here, they're so compact. I'm not even going to touch him, he's going to hurt me. They're super compact and he's super spiny. And you just want to give him a big hug. Wow. So you notice this guy, he looks a little beat up, but this is really how they grow. And typically, to grow, what they do is as the trunk gets longer, the smaller guys will fall off, right? And then you get this bunch up here on top. And to propagate, what it does is it drops, right, his segments on the ground. Let's see. A bunch of segments on the ground here. He drops them, and then like a little animal, like a kit fox or somebody will walk by, gets stuck in his fur, and then he carries away a mile or so, and the thing regrows. Or even these guys right here, they'll just kind of reroot themselves and grow right next to our plant. And there's a huge Bigelow Wilderness Park up by Route 66 and I-40 outside of the town of Needles. And you also find a big park down in Joshua Tree. How about that? Sorry. So this little teddy bear, he's blooming. Let's see what we got. Hey, how about that? Look at that. Little cylindrical flowers here. He'll bloom, and then he'll turn into little fruits that you can eat. How about that? Oh. Here's our Acacia. These guys are fantastic. So it's almost like a rosette of really long stems down here. Super spiny, and they'll shoot up real high, sometimes high as 25 feet. Get these little blooms on top. Wow. He's real common out here in Sonora and also in Zabrego. So this little guy on our Acacia, this is an Audobon's Warbler, Setophaga audoboni. He's a type of yellow-rumped warbler. This is a black-throated gray warbler, Setophaga, nigrescens. He's really shy, and there's really not a lot known about them. Here's an ash-throated flycatcher, Myarchus cinerescens. He's a type of tyrant flycatcher. Right. This is a barrel cactus, and they get pretty tall. This was a little guy. He's only about a foot tall. They get 3-4 feet tall. And his needles here, you see his needles? Some stick out, helps protect him, right? But the others all wrap around his trunk. And that's to help reduce evaporation of water, transpiration. See this guy here? So this side is well adapted for direct sun exposure, okay? But if you go to the other side, here, it's going to be different. So one side is different than the other. And if you take them and transplant them, you got to make sure you orient it the exact same way, or this side on this side will get burned, and your plant will die. These are huge needles. Wow, look at that. So needles are actually leaves, okay? These guys are, I don't know, 3 inches long. Don't step on this puppy, it's gonna hurt. Wow, take a look at this barrel cactus from the genus Phaerocactus. This guy's gotta be, I don't know, 2 feet high, 2.5 feet high. All right, so he's starting to flower here too. Look at that. Little flower buds coming in, right? Cylindrical flowers, flower buds, and he'll fruit. And you notice here, see, he kind of leans to the south, right? So to the left is south. He's kind of leaning up to the south. This plant here is called a black brush or a black bush, little shrub, Coleogyne ramosissima, or Coleogyne ramosissima. Either way, that's fine. He's a spiny, perennial, soft-wooded little shrub. He's native to southwestern United States. And he's called a black brush, obviously, because his gray branches here, right? They'll turn really, really dark and black when it rains. And this is he's called a monotypic plant. So he's the only genus of this type of plant, right? So it's kind of unique. So here, this is the Corn Springs Campground, called a Corn Springs Oasis. And even long before the white settlers came and the miners came, the Native Americans, they lived here. Beautiful springs coming down, natural oasis. They love this place. There's a bunch of petroglyphs written on all the walls about their history here. But when the miners came, you know, in the late 1800s, early 1900s, they started to congregate here. And at one time, see, we have only about maybe 12 or 15 of these different palm trees here. Here's a Washingtonia filifera, named after George Washington. So at one time, there might have been 60 or 100 of these palm trees lining this whole oasis. Naturally watered from the springs, above ground and below ground. It was a great retreat for these miners. And the camp was called the Bohemia Mine Camp. It attracted miners from all over the world. So America, Mexico, Canada, England, Europe, maybe even Australia. And all these miners, they lived here. And they mined up in the hills up in Aztec Wells, right? Down in our valley. Here's where they congregated. But as the volcanic activity has changed the water table, along with fires, destroyed some of the trees, it kind of looks like a ghost town campsite. All right, so here's our Sprinter van right here, and we're camping here for the night. You know, little hot dogs and beans and something else. All right, it's sunset over the Chuckwalla Mountains here. That peak here is about 4,500 feet. It's about 7 o'clock. All right, we can start the fire.
Oh, it didn't come up.
That'll work out pretty good. So get that fire going. I'm going to put this grill on top that we snaked out of Vidal Junction, boondocking last night, on top of this guy. And for dinner, we got a little bit of a repeat here. We got jumbo premium all beef hot dogs, private selection. And here we've got our Hormel chili, chunky beef chili. And that'll be a pretty good meal. We're just going to cook it. We'll cook the dogs on the grill, and chop them up and stick them in this pot. Reheat it all, and then that'll be wonderful.
All right, here we go. We're putting the dogs on. All beef hot dogs. All beef hot dogs. Private selection from Albertsons.
Here we are. All right, these will take about, I don't know, 8 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And tonight, we're drinking this guy. Bay Bridge Merlot. All right, the dogs are cooking pretty good. Uncle Casey just gave him a little swirl.
It's back. So you can see the dog's nice and crispy now. And sampled one that's really good.
All right, it's time to serve up this beautiful, beautiful meal. Let's see here. There we go. Chili and hot dogs. And Bay Bridge Merlot. Of course. All right, it's time for some s'mores here over the fireplace. You see it okay? Right. There we go. All right, so this is Venus out tonight. Wow. So this here is Orion's belt. Here is Mars. Wow. All right, good morning in Corn Springs Campground. And today we're going to have for breakfast a little Tropicana juice. Got my Folgers Classic Roast, Coffee Mate, and boiling water here on our Coleman. Sounds like it's ready. So this morning, we're going to walk around the interpretive trail up here at Corn Springs. And before we do, a couple animals we might find. We have our Chuckwalla lizard, our desert iguana. He's usually scurrying around the dirt. We have an antelope ground squirrel. And listen for a really high-pitched chip. And that's our antelope ground squirrel. A black-tailed hare. He's also known as the jackrabbit, of course. A verdin. He's a small grayish bird with a yellow head and a whitish belly. You find him along the road in the wash. You might find a yellow-rumped warbler. You also might find a blue-gray gnatcatcher. We have the Merriam's kangaroo rat, but they only come out at night. Cactus wren. And now he'll nest inside our Chollas. Got a roadrunners. They're easy to find. A western pipistrelle. He's that little bat we see flying around at dusk. And a phainopepla. He's a blackbird with this black crown on top. And you find him inside our desert mistletoe, eating the berries and spreading the berries around. But up here, we have stop number 1. That's where our trail begins, with our beautiful Washingtonia filifera palms. So the palms grow here because it's a natural oasis. And they just get their water and nutrients from the ground here. And they're headless because of fires, but also because the water table has changed, mostly due to seismic activity up here in the hills. So they lost a lot of the water. So the Native Americans, they'd use this palm as a source of food and also for tools. And the fruit of the fan palm was eaten raw, cooked, or ground into flour for cakes. And the stems were used for making utensils for cooking. And you use all the thatch to make sandals, roofs, and even baskets. So we also might find a Mojave fringe-toed lizard, like you find up at Kelso Dunes. And this plant here, big, large, shady tree, this is called a tamarisk, or a salt cedar. He's very common throughout the world, a lot of arid regions. And he's also known to be a very successful invader. And this plant here we see like all over the place up here. All right, this is a honey mesquite. He's super common out here in the Sonoran Desert. Okay, he's Prosopis glandulosa. All right, and he's multipinnate, but his leaves here, see, they're really fern-like, and they'll kind of whistle in the wind, and he's very thorny. Ouch! Check out these thorns on him. All right, so you don't want to be going through this plant. You're gonna get, there's a ladybug. Hey, ladybug. Okay, and then he'll bloom between March and November, and they'll get seed pods a little later on. Here's a little bloom right here. This is April 2nd, so he'll bloom. There's some more, right? Little flowery blooms that'll come out. Then they'll make little seed pods that look like legumes. And the seed pods will have seeds in them. So this guy here you're going to find all along the trail. This guy's called a brittle bush. Or you can call it a brittle brush. And the reason it's called a brittle bush, because his stems, they're real brittle. All right? He's Encelia farinosa. And he's got these beautiful flowers here, or leaves, right? They're very soft, very lavender-like, and very fuzzy. And this guy will flower later on. These are flowers, but these are last year's. He'll flower later on and be really yellow, right? He's got these real thick stems down here as well. Very soft. White fuzzy bark. All right. So all these fallen palms, they're fine because the critters will use them to make little nests for their little habitats. Here's a little honey mesquite tunnel you get to walk through. All right. This site here is where the self-proclaimed mayor of Corn Springs, Gus Lederer, lived. Then he's working up in the Aztec well in 1932. He was bitten by a black widow and he died. So that's sad. And here's our little brittle bush here. All right. And you got the pretty little lavender soft leaves. This shrub here we find all along the trail, right? We just call this guy a salt bush. And you find these guys all throughout Sonoran Desert, and especially out in Salton Sea, right? Salt bush. So we crossed the road on our trail, and up here we have our beautiful Acacias in full bloom. We'll continue on our trail. Up here, this guy is our Ambrosia dumosa burrow bush. Right? And the burrows like to eat this guy. And also you use it for feedstock for cattle. All right? And up here is our Laria tridentata, our creosote bush. You find everywhere out in the Mojave, Sonoran Deserts, from San Bernardino out to Las Vegas, down to Yuma, and south of the border. And he's called a Larian tridentata, because the leaves come in threes at the ends to make a little trident, are tridentata. These guys get pretty big. They're very resilient, and they exude a little enzyme out of the roots, okay, down here, that help prevent other plants from growing next to it. He's called the Gobonadora because he's the most dominant species out in the Mojave and Sonoran deserts as a Gobonadora. Other people say he's a Gobonadora because he steals all the nutrients from all the surrounding plants like a governess would. Then other people say he's a Gobonadora like the overseer of a convent taking care of sick children and sick people, because this guy has lots of medicinal properties. All right. So here's another one of our burrow bush, right? It's also called a white bursage, or white bursage. He's got little white soft stems, and he's really brittle too. So this guy here, he's called an ironwood tree, Onea tosota, right? And he looks pretty dead, but he's actually one of the most beautiful flowering and blossoming trees we have out here. So you got to come back in May and June. Okay, he's got these multi-pinnated leaves here, oval-shaped leaves. He's got a little green as well, like our Palo Verde. So this is a mistletoe, desert mistletoe, Phoradendron californicum. He's a parasite. He sucks on this little shrub, tree. He sucks the life out of it. Now this is a cat claw, right? It's an acacia tree, Acacia greggii. And you find them all throughout the Sonoran Mojave deserts, okay? Over here, this is our Palo Verde from the genus Parkinsonia. And he's green on his stems. See this? How he's green here? All right, he's got chlorophyll in his stems. So when he gets rid of his leaves, he could still do photosynthesis. And here's our seed pod, right, from our Palo Verde. And you get little seeds in there, just like a little legume. Okay. See if I can get this open here. There we go. Kind of mush these up. You can eat them raw or cook them. So check out this really big Palo Verde. Big green plant. These guys get 30 feet high. Go out in Salton Sea, and you got huge ones out there. And also all around Sonoran Desert throughout Arizona. Really green. So along the wash, here's a better look at our honey mesquite. Prosopis glandulosa.
There's a hummingbird. You about this?
You got a hummingbird in here. Ah, that's cute.
You missed him again.
Oh well. Anyway, so the mesquite here, it's an important food item for our Native Americans. And the beans, we find a bean pod, is sweet and nutritious. It can be eaten raw or cooked. It can be made into glue, used for building homes and making furniture. And the mesquite beans produce a methanol gas and alcohol. You can mix it in gasoline to make gasohol. How about that? So maybe this will be the solution to global warming. All right, we'll kind of proceed down the wash. A little bug there.
Ladybug.
A little ladybug on our honey mesquite.
And we got the flowers.
Here we go. Some flower pods coming in. Then they'll make little legumes, and he's got little tiny, tiny thorns See the thorn right there? So don't tangle with these guys either, because they'll grab you, just like the cat claw. Ironwood, all down the wash. Oh, see, look at that. I already got him. All right, so here in our wash, this is called a cheese bush. Hymenoclea salsola. And the reason it's called a cheese bush, if you kind of, you know, rub up against them here with your hands. You smell it, it smells like cheese. It smells like Roquefort cheese. All right, these guys get a little bigger and more flowery, but he'll make it. Now this plant here in the wash, this is desert lavender. Condea Ambrosia. He's a member of the mint family. He's a lavender. Way up here is little flower coming in. See a little kind of purple flower next to our ladybug. He's a lavender. He's really starting to come out and bloom here. Here's one of our creosote bushes in bloom. Little yellow flowers. And this here, that little white tuft right there, it's a seed pod. And all the seeds will blow away. But it's not very good at germinating or reproducing by seeds. It does it mostly by rhizomes. Here's a bigger cheese bush, or Hymenoclea, over here too. Right, this guy's a lot cheesier than our other cheese bush. So here's a little brittle bush coming in. Encelia farinosa. He's got these really soft bunny rabbit kind of leaves. Look at that. Isn't that beautiful? Really soft and fuzzy. And they're fuzzy because it helps reduce the evaporation of water off this guy. So across the road here, we've got our petroglyphs etched in the rock by the ancient Native Americans. Let's see if we check these out here. All right, and nobody really knows why they're here. Sometimes they say the shamans would etch these kind of as a spirit to have a good hunt. So this here, all these lines, I don't know, maybe that's how many animals they killed, or maybe those are sidewinder snakes. Up here, take a look at a few more. Up here, there's a good one. Alright, there's a snake. Right there. That's going to be a rattlesnake. So what they do here, this rock here is covered with what's called a rock varnish or patina. And you get a chisel or a hard instrument, you could etch off the patina and it leaves this white rock underneath. It never gets replaced. Right. If you tell me what these symbols mean, just put it in the comment section below. And up here we got some more petroglyphs up here on the rock. And we got some more recent ones that people etched in themselves. Let's take a look. So obviously here's a more recent one. Could be a self-portrait of some guy. I think it looks like some sort of patriarch with a wig. So up here in the petroglyphs, this is where our Chuckwalla lives. And if you're quiet, sometimes you might hear him yelling out his call, like Chuck, Chuck, Chuck. That's why they call him a Chuckwalla. All right. More petroglyphs from the old days and probably new days as well. And along the hillside by the wash, this is all mesquite and palo verdes. Maybe an ironwood in there. And the last stop is up this little trail here behind the petroglyphs. Right, there's a little hole for a critter. And we'll see what's at the top of the trail. And here we have another one of our barrel cacti. Here. All right, we got another one up here. Bunch of creosote bushes. And our Ambrosia dumosa here. Our little burrow bush. So it's pretty easy to confuse these guys right here with these guys. So this is our Ambrosia dumosa, right? Our burrow bush. It's got these very stemmy, white, soft stems, the leaves on top, right? Over here, this is our brittle bush. All right, it's got these sage-like looking leaves. But when they're all dead and there's no leaves, it's really hard to tell them apart. So this is 12. We're going to hit 12 and go back to 11. Our bonus one. Anyway, so the little brochure says this is a desert willow, but obviously it's not. Because this is a desert willow right next to it. Chelopsis linearis, the desert willow. And he's called a willow because he's got these leaves here, very elongated leaves, right? Very linear, and they kind of dance around like a willow. But he's not a true willow. So the desert willow has large lavender orchid-like flowers, making it a very prized ornamental. And the Native Americans, they use this to make tools as well. Right, because look at the stems are so big and thick, and you could, you know, make arrows out of this and other tools, maybe build a hut. So here's another good example of our burrow bush. All right, barrel cacti, Luria tridentata. Here we have a pencil cactus. Here, all right. Looks like he's falling down a little bit. And finally, this is the last stop, number 11. And what do we got here? Oh, a bonus. In memory of Virgil F. Kirby, 1947 to 1996. Longtime desert resident and friend, loved life, loved the desert. Dedicated to helping others by protecting the lands, gone but not forgotten by his BLM friends. Here's our last site. And BLM took over this campground in 1968 for our enjoyment and pleasure. Way out here, that is our RV citation. We're boondocking around Mojave and Sonoran deserts. So there you go. That is the end for good. Thanks for watching. Bye. Have a great day.